Well, a beautiful day right there, as they would say. Siku njema huonekana asubuhi. It's Wednesday, the 30th day of September 2020. My name is Linda Alala. It is time for Morning Cafe. Ensure that you're part and parcel of this session from 6 a.m. all the way to 9 a.m. #Morning Cafe at Linda_Alala TV47 KA. It is always a pleasure to have you join us and a pleasure for me to take you through this particular session. Now, the Huduma number, a probable replica of America's Social Security number SSN, that has sparked lots of positive and negative debate in the country. The government of Kenya initiated the registration of persons in the country using a harmonized approach to address duplication of efforts, cut costs in registration processes, guarantee ease in service delivery, and much more. This, however, did and continues not to rub well with the majority of Kenyans. The latest click to question the credibility of the same are politicians allied to Deputy President William Ruto, who now claim the number is meant to create a path to rigging of elections come 2022. So today on the Morning Cafe, we ask, how much faith do you have on the Huduma number? That is the main topic of discussion at 7 a.m. and later on we loosen up to some bit of comedy and music at 8 a.m. But first, we take a look at what is happening in the world of news. And we kickstart with so much that has been prepared, first of all, with my team. And importantly, we cross over to the newspaper review. And for the second day, teachers in public schools have reported to their respective schools as directed by the Teachers Service Commission. In some schools, teachers have been busy making their schools tidy, awaiting further instructions from the Ministry of Education. And Nanok Lauren caught up with some of the teachers yesterday and filed the following report.
It was the second day of teachers reporting in their respective schools, according to Teachers Service Commission's directives. In Ofafa Jericho High School, teachers and workers were full of activities to ensure the school surroundings were spotless. Hand washing stations installed and litter was collected and brought to ashes. Deputy Principal Kimathi Dedan alludes that teachers have been ready to receive their learners, only that President Uhuru Kenyatta's decision to have schools kept closed have dimmed their lights of resuming work.
We require to have 1 meter rule to follow that one. And now, the number of students in our schools, they are alarming. They are many. That's what I can say. There are many, and we need to divide those ones. So we need to put more infrastructures. That means classes, the dorms, the dining hall, and etc. And now they were supposed to send money for that work, which they have not.
He deliberates that the challenge of maintaining the 1.5 meter rule distance in classrooms may have led to the president halting the reopening of schools, a task he says will be a hard one to achieve.
Teachers were very ready. They thought they would come today. They are very ready. In fact, even the offices now, they are clean. Everything, they are very ready. It's only that now the president said that the student will come after. There's no defined dates.
In Hospital Hill Primary here in Nairobi, teachers have formed a number of committees to handle various responsibilities in readiness for learning to resume.
Tumegawanyika katika makundi mbalimbali. Kuna wale, kwa mfano mimi niko katika kitengo cha wale ambao wanahakikisha uwanja wa shule, kila kitu kuanzia pale kwenye geti lango, kila kitu ni sawa sawa. Kuna jopo jingine la walimu ambalo linajishughulisha na masuala ya kuhakikisha kwamba pale kule msalani kila kitu ni shwari.
The Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers KUPPET says teachers are in school for a reason, as they are anticipating for schools to reopen.
The presence of teachers in school should not be treated as a strange phenomenon. It should be where the teachers are supposed to be. We are anticipating the opening up of our schools for learning. And when schools are being opened for learning, you don't expect teachers to stay from home.
For teachers in various schools, advanced preparations are underway for the reopening of schools. It is just a matter of when. Nanok Lauren, TV47.
And from nanochlorine to more on matters education, the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers has faulted the government for the continued delay of reopening schools. The union says the lack of infrastructure is delaying the reopening and now wants Education Cabinet Secretary George Magoha to act with speed to ensure schools meet all the requirements for reopening.
Led by the Union Secretary General Akelo Misori and KUPPET Chairman Omboko Milemba, the officials have expressed their displeasure in the lethargy in the reopening of schools as exuded by the government.
Open up bars and you ensure that people go to buses. When we see airlines with no changes in the seating arrangement in the planes, then what means that some people have taken safeguards. And what are the safeguards? There is improvement of sanitation in the planes, there is masking, and if we have to mask our children to be in class, then who is supposed to be responsible for the provision of masks?
Tumeona ndege zimefunguliwa. Mbona ndege imefunguliwa na hawajatoa viti fulani katika ndege? Viti zote bado ziko kwenye ndege. Basi ilifunguliwa jana. Basi ile ya kusafirisha watu. Hawajapunguza viti. Haya, bawe wameambiwa wafungue. Hawajaambiwa viti zitapunguka saa hizi, wanasema tu ifike saa 4. Sijui kama COVID inatembea paka saa 4 alafu inalala.
KUPPET says teachers are more than ready to resume teaching, but the Ministry of Health is lagging behind in addressing the issues surrounding the reopening of schools.
The union, we are also saying that how to open must include, among other things, the provision of masks, the presence of sufficient space and sanitation area and provision of water. Because we realize that you cannot negotiate with the virus. If we cannot negotiate with the virus, these are the bare minimum that the government must brace. So
KUPPET believes that the ministry has all the resources needed for the reopening. Hence, infrastructural projects in schools should be prioritized. The union says the ball is still in Magoha's court and the backstop lies with him and President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Pesa za kutosha ziende katika Ministry ya Education kwa kutayarisha mashule yetu kwa muda fulani. Ili baada ya huu muda shule zinaweza kufunguliwa tukifuatilia maagizo ya World Health Organization.
The ball is still bouncing to the president's door and to the cabinet minister's office, that they are the ones who are likely delaying or postponing the opening up of schools.
Lack of funds to implement infrastructural projects, alteration of the academic calendar, a possible spike in coronavirus cases in schools are possible reasons why the reopening is being delayed. Stakeholders from Bungoma County opine that achieving social distancing in schools is next to impossible due to high numbers of students and strained resources.
Social distancing Bungoma DB hatutaweza wakati huu kwa sababu watoto wako 3,334 na hao watoto wanakaa kwa madarasa 38. Hao watoto kwa 38 kwa kila darasa wanakaa watoto 100 na. So kama ni issue ya social distance lazima ikuwe ndio shule zifunguliwe. Bungoma DB haiwezi kufunguliwa.
KUPPET fears that continued stay of children at homes will further exacerbate teenage pregnancies and children being involved in crime. The continued closure of schools has elicited mixed reactions from education stakeholders, and now they want President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta and Education CS Professor George Magoha to hasten the process of reopening of the schools. And with the reopening of the economy, stakeholders feel that the education sector is lagging behind. Mwangi Maina, TV47, Nairobi.
And 2 days after President Uhuru Kenyatta directed bars to reopen in the country, operations within various joints seem to be returning to normalcy. Bar owners and operators have expressed their relief following months of forced closure, even as the government ruled out guidelines for the reopening of bars. David Mutho.
These were the scenes for the better part of the day at various bars in the country after President Kenyatta directed the vacation of restrictions affecting the sale of alcohol at bars, restaurants and eateries starting Tuesday. At this Asida Grill bar in Nakuru town, Plans to reopen are underway in anticipation of a return to business. This operator here with a knapsack sprayer in tow is hell-bent on disinfecting the joint as part of the measures issued by the government to bars in a bid to tame the spread of COVID-19 ahead of the reopening. The seating arrangement has also been adjusted as other employees literally dust the shelves, hoping to make a killing for the first time in more than 6 months tonight.
Sasa tuko na matumaini. Pia wale wafanyikazi ambao tulikuwa tunafanya kazi nao mbeleni kabla corona, kuna matumaini kwamba watarudi kazini.
At the nearby TAS Hotel, reopening is also imminent. A few months ago, this particular bar had hit headlines after the owner had converted it into a workshop and a church. But today, the old ways seem to be surely coming back. On this particular corner, these early bars with bottles of beer in tow are not in the mood to miss out on the return to normalcy fun. Along Kiambu Road at this Whiskey Rivers joint, preparations are no different. Employees are putting on final touches in ensuring their first night after months of business oblivion goes down well. Even this DJ is not willing to spoil the fun. We find him sampling his playlist for tonight, removing the chaff from the grain.
We are still maintaining the COVID restrictions, 1.5 meter each and every table. We're only allowing 2 people to sit per table. Also, we are having sanitizers. Our staffs are sanitizing our tables after each and every walk-in. And we're still maintaining so as to prevent any form of infections within our area of operation.
In Kisumu town, bars reopened their doors for revelers, and one by one they trickled in.
This pandemic has really affected us big time. People have gone home, we've been closed, but now, as I can see, even now, customers are coming back. We hope like it's gonna be okay.
And in Mombasa, representatives of bar owners associations welcomed the reopening directives with open arms, terming the closure period as the harshest ever.
We're very thankful for that. You've had very tough times. The last few months has been very difficult for us all in the hospitality industry, particularly for us bar owners.
Most of our members have already adjusted to that, but unfortunately, not all.
According to the Pubs, Entertainment and Restaurant Association of Kenya, PERAC, at least 500,000 jobs had been lost, directly or indirectly, by the closure of bars. Following the nationwide month-long closure of bars, pubs and clubs in the country, the long wait to finally reopen their doors is finally over. The excitement among stakeholders is palpable, and so are the expectations. David Muthoka, TV47 at Kiambu County.
Still on the same note, a second phase of reopening of places of worship is set to begin on Friday this week. This is according to Interfaith Council, which says that some earlier restrictions have been eased. The Interfaith Council has also laid out protocols to be followed in burials and other social gatherings, as Zainab Mohammed tells us.
Just a day after President Uhuru Kenyatta gave a directive for the second phased reopening of places of worship, the Interfaith Council has announced that the directive will be effected starting this Friday.
Following the indications given by the President, we have decided to transition to phase 2 of phased reopening as from Friday, the 2nd October 2020.
However, according to the Interfaith Council chairperson, Archbishop Anthony Muheria, there are specific rules and regulations that need to be adhered to in order to ensure the smooth reopening of places of worship. Bishop Muheria says that all the current requirements, such as hand washing, temperature check, and physical distancing, will continue to apply. The number of attendees increasing from 100 to 200 people. The places of worship will also require regular sanitization of their premises and ensure a strict rule of no sharing of items. The limit of worship sessions has been extended to 2 hours, as worshippers above 65 years and those below 6 years are now allowed to attend prayers. And as for funeral ceremonies, the council has increased the number of attendees to 200, with only 50 people allowed at the gravesite. No food shall be served in funerals, with the ceremony now being limited to 2 hours only. The body of the deceased will require direct transfer to the place of service in order to minimize large gatherings. On matters weddings, the council has directed that food shall only be served to extended family, with the number of attendees being increased to 200 people. Zainab Mohammed, TV47.
Thanks, Zainab. Now to politics. And Jubilee Vice Chair David Murathe now says that Deputy President William Ruto is on his way out of the ruling Jubilee Party. This as the Chairman Budget Committee, Kieni Lume Kakanini Kega, threatened to withdraw Ruto's office budget, claiming he has failed to deliver in his constitutional mandate. However, Ruto's allies have defended the second in command.
I'm going to call the family into for the purpose of the social distance.
Ruto's failure to attend the national conference on COVID-19 has elicited mixed reaction, with the Jubilee Vice Chair David Murathe saying it is a clear indication of a man who is already out of the Jubilee Party.
It's like they have made up their minds. Before alikuwa amesema chama had been hijacked by conmen, by fraudsters, busybodies.
The chairman of the Budget Committee in the National Assembly, Kanini Kega, is on his part threatening to withdraw the budget allocation to the office of the Deputy President over what he termed as Ruto's failure in his constitutional mandate.
I am at liberty to also review the budget and see what we can also be able to do with that budget. So we are not taking it lightly. It's a serious issue. There is no way the president can be in a function. You have been invited and you don't attend. There is no reason. There is absolutely no reason that you can give. It could only be sabotage. And from where I sit, I see a lot of sabotage.
Disregard or disrespect the president, no problem. That is the interpersonal relations. But the relationship between the deputy president and the people of Kenya should be the same as it were from the onset when he said that he's going to serve Kenyans.
But just a day after skipping the conference, the second in command hosted a group of youth in his current office, Ruto saying he is not doing this for votes.
Mimi sina haja na kura. Nani aliwaambia niko na haja na kura? Mimi niko na haja na kuinua hustle ya Mkenya kwa sababu mimi ni naibu wa rais sasa.
Ruto's allies have, however, defended his defiance.
Mbona hakuuliza ya juzi? Mbona hakuuliza ya cabinet? Mbona hakuuliza ya National Security Council? Mbona unaangalia tu ya jana? Kwani serikali iliitwa jana?
ODM leader Raila Odinga, ANC's Musalia Mudavadi are among the leaders who are at the conference at KICC on Monday. Nancy Kimuyu, TV47.
And National Assembly Speaker Justin Muturi has directed Infotrak Research Firm to present a detailed report in the House on parameters which were used in ranking members of Parliament in the recent report. Members of Parliament are now claiming that Infotrak was demanding a bribe of between 70,000 to 100,000 shillings to fairly rank them.
Member for Westlands.
It was a heated afternoon session at the National Assembly as members of Parliament questioned a recent report by Infotrak ranking members of Parliament as per their performance. The heated debate was raised by Suba North Member of Parliament Millie Odhiambo, who was ranked at position 272 out of 290 members of Parliament, accusing Infotrak Director Angela Ambitho of trying to settle political scores through the report.
I will not let her go. Even the ones who are ranking me number one, I do not want to be ranked. I know what my position is. Don't rank me. I don't need your rankings. And Mr. Speaker, I think we need to tell people like Infotrak, if we know that coronavirus has affected businesses, but she is not going to use us as commodities to make money, as members of Parliament, commodities to make money.
Towards the election, certain period. But I think this House, even the Committee on Education, should call InfoCheck because their integrity today is in question. They should come and clear. And those who are number 1 to 20 must tell us how they were number 1 to 20, what they have paid.
However, members of parliament have said there is need for proper legislation on the research done on them.
This thing is going to be nice. I said, I'longea vizuri. I will speak to you. So can you send me what will come after I've spoken? I was put at 80%. Now when it came out, I didn't talk and I did not produce anything, Honorable Speaker. When I didn't, they have put me at something like number 300.
Much as it's affecting members here today, we are 2 years into a general election. And there will be all manner of, opinion polls coming up. And if we don't guide the country, which is our responsibility, we are going to plunge this country into chaos through all manner of purported research showing the feelings of Kenya are...
Emuhaya Member of Parliament Omboko Milemba was ranked the best performer, while his Isiolo South counterpart Abdi Tepo was ranked the last.
I think what we need to focus on is how do we ensure that we have authentic and defendable research. That's what we need to do. And even as we do that, let's measure, let's have tampered language and focus on that law.
And I don't think as Kenyans we should allow anybody to rent sick through such a rubbish studies. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
In view of what MPs are today, how about if it's in a political environment that the election is forthcoming? Honorable Speaker, this is wrong, and this House should regulate on how research is done, on how matters of comparison are going to be done in the country.
If you are going to do some samples, they must have a bearing on those general functions of a member of parliament.
The report was released on Sunday. Elizabeth Mutuko, TV47 Nairobi.
From that, the family of Saleh Wanjala, the man who made headlines by hanging on a chopper in 2016 at Posta Grounds in Bungoma town, has been thrown into mourning following the death of Mr. Wanjala after a short illness at Bungoma County Referral Hospital. Mike Kagwongo with the details.
He braved the unimaginable stunt of hanging on a helicopter and survived. But the little-known Bungoma daredevil has been taken down by a short illness. According to his mother, Evelyn Namusia, Saleh Wanjala was rushed to the hospital after complaining of mild pain before succumbing shortly afterwards.
Kwa hiyo nini yenye walikuwa nimempepea wakati walikuwa wanamsukuma wakimtibu, damu ilikuwa inatoka kwa mapua. Mara alikuwa analianga sana kifua. Wakati alihanga kwa ndege, maumivu yake ilikuwa mguu, saa zingine inamshinda, saa zingine hata hiyo kifua inajaa anashinda kutembea.
Kitu yenye Samba kalifanya, alipigwa tu, alikuwa na hiccups mara 3. Ya 3 ndio alienda, na madaktari wakaniambia huyu hayuko na sisi, na walikuwa wamemweka kwanza kwa oxygen.
Before James Bond, a few weeks later, Saleh's dream to fly on a plane materialized after businessman Joseph Waswa through Lentrix Foundation facilitated Saleh and 11 members of his family to fly to Nairobi. His family has eulogized him as a hard-working man who engrossed himself with the jua kali activities to cater for his family needs. A village elder has said Saleh was a hard-working man in his life and was always at the disposal of fellow villagers.
Sichaona makosa mimi kama village elder, wachamleta kwangu ya kwamba Samba kamepika mtu ameiba, upande ya wisi sichaona.
Reporting for TV47 from Bungoma, Mike Kagwanga.
And may his soul rest in eternal peace. And with an increased number of children being born with cerebral palsy condition in the North Rift region, many parents continue to grapple with the challenges of stigma and difficulty for their children to access education. Our reporter Calvin Chitu spoke to a number of parents of such children and filed the following report.
Apart from the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital, the ACK Community Center is other place where children with the cerebral palsy are attended to at least once every week. The center serves Nandi, Uasin Gishu and Elgeyo Marakwet counties. Over 100 children with the condition rely on the services offered here.
We normally come here, have meetings without paying, and they have workers. We normally don't pay anything. They host us for free, and we thank God for them. And we are praying that God will open ways for CBR through our children so that they can get more donors to support the activities, because that's a noble work they are doing to the community.
The parents say one of the biggest challenge for them is the cost of managing the children after corrective surgery has been done.
After the surgery, it is over. It's actually a beginning of management. So one challenge is on managing these children with spina bifida, because, like, for example, with hydrocephalus, at times there is a failure of the shunt. Then doing the shunting is actually costly. So one challenge I've seen with most parents, because most of our parents are not employed, some are self-employed, but these are children who need the parents to be there, to be with them, because they cannot actually help themselves. Because one challenge associated with spina bifida is paralysis.
Stigma is still another challenge that has made many parents hide their children from the public.
Lazima watolewe nje, waweze kuexposiwa ili wakaweza kuonekana katika jamii.
The parents say the children with the condition are not accepted in schools easily, and there are very few special schools in the region.
Kienda kwa shule, unajaribu kuongea na principal admit mtoto akaweza kuingia kwa shule, unaambiwa mtoto apelekwe special school. Na wetu si wa special, ukiangalia kwa akili ni wale ambao wako na akili kabisa yenye wanaweza soma.
Bishop Christopher Ruto of the Anglican Church Eldoret Diocese called on the government to find a way of supplementing private institutions with specialized staff.
We pray that we have people who can do a lot of physiotherapy, who can help us. Let us have volunteers, especially from that area.
Bishop Ruto also urged the government to support parents with cerebral palsy children with soft loans to start sustainable development projects. Many parents in Kenya who have children with cerebral palsy and also mental challenges are faced with the challenge of stigma, and also many schools in Kenya don't enroll children with such conditions. Calvin Chitwa, TV47, Uasin Gishu County.
All right, and we go for a short break. We'll be coming back with the newspapers, and we'll take a look at what is also happening on the international scene after this short break. And welcome back, Burhanuddin Simbar and Frank Anyona Museti, our political analyst, and they will be joining me for the newspaper review. We have the People Daily, our standard newspaper, and the Daily Nation will also be taking a snippet of what is happening on the international scene, the presidential debate in the United States between Trump and Biden. Just how much have they convinced the investors? They say they have not been able to convince investors, talking about matters race and how the country has dealt with COVID-19. Some of the key things that took center stage at this particular debate. But coming to the gentleman, good morning.
Good morning, Linda.
Been well?
Good morning, Linda.
All right, Frank, karibu sana. Burhanuddin, it's good to have you for the first time. And as we kickstart, we have the People Daily right with me on the front page. That is, on the screen, and Ruto's delicate balance as he shapes a 2022 bid defies bores. And Deputy President's absence during the COVID-19 National Conference has set tongues wagging on what next after latest snub on a state event. It's the same story that has been captured on other newspapers, but I do not know what you make of this particular one. Very many people reading so much into the same. And of course, in regards to whether indeed he is staging his way out of Jubilee Party or not is a question of wait and see. But gentlemen, coming to you, probably to start with the guest of the day, the one who's more of a new face, Burhanuddin. What do you make of the political events of the country, especially this one that is culminating within the Jubilee Party?
As you can see from the headline, Deputy President William Ruto had it coming all along. And in this country, political parties are always used as vehicles to get to State House or to leadership. And my opinion is that Jubilee Party is dead or is in the end. What will happen, the DP will form his own party to propel him to State House come 2022. And as you can see, he has already started feeling the heat. He has been sidelined, and he has been getting sympathy from the masses that all is not well within Jubilee. And the people who are supposed to be his juniors are now trying to give him directions, which will eventually force him out.
And yes, let's hear what Anyona has to say. Anyona, well, at least from the discussions that we have previously, you had a soft spot of how the DP is dealing with his affairs or conducting his affairs. I mean, some have argued that his advisors are misleading him. Some have argued that they're doing the right thing and they're resonating with the youth, with the women, with the people of Kenya, with the Hustler Nation, as they would purport. What do you make of this? And I mean, is Jubilee dead and in denial?
First of all, thank you very much, and I'd like to congratulate you. Finally, you're on DSTV, and we are really enjoying.
Thank you. Channel 268.
Yes, number 268.
Yes.
So actually, I'd like to say that this is something I'm glad that as young as I am, this is something that I saw, and we even discussed about it like 7 years ago, 2013. When I was joining first year, I remember we were in a room with my friends discussing about politics, and I told them Uhuru Kenyatta is not going to support William Ruto come 2022. So if this comes as a shock to any Kenyan, that is somebody probably who is not used to the Kenyan political systems. This is something that we foresaw, and I believe that even the deputy president, as smart as he is, he saw this coming a very long time ago, but just that he could not preempt, and he has been trying to really work. I've seen a number of Kieleweke MPs saying that the deputy president should assist the president in achieving the agendas of Jubilee. And I'd like to put it to the nation like this today. the deputy president has really been working. Even when we see him meeting Kenyans, you know that he's working and trying to empower young people, trying to empower hustlers.
Yeah.
So I do not know which kind of work sometimes they purport to be saying that William Ruto is not assisting the president's work. I don't know whether they want him to be carrying the briefcase of the president from one point to the other so that they can understand the deputy president.
Okay.
But all in all, this is politics. Given a chance, even Uhuru Kenyatta himself will confess that the deputy president has done a good job per se. This is the best deputy president Kenya has ever had so far.
Do you suppose there was wisdom? Wait, before you wind up on this, do you suppose there was some level of wisdom in him missing, on this particular state event?
To be honest, let us be fair with one another. The events we're going to discuss, actually the conference was going to discuss events of that the deputy president has not been attending most of these COVID-19 meetings. So it would be hypocritical to call him and now start engaging him on something that he has not been part of.
But just why? I don't want us to make this a debate. Let's hear this from Buhar Nordin. Why would we comfortably say that, yes, after all, the deputy president has not been attending some of these meetings or a majority of these meetings, while we know very well that, yes, he's part and parcel of the presidency. And I mean, in numerous occasions when he's not attended, probably there's not so much in terms of an explanation that has been given as to why he failed. If at all there is any, many have argued that maybe, these are things that would have been scheduled for the state event, and then he would come and attend to some of these others later.
The deputy president is in office, courtesy of our votes. He's also being paid by taxpayers to perform his duties. Constitutionally, he was not supposed to miss the event, no matter what. That is what he's paid for to do. But politically, he has scored some points.
Oh, yeah?
He has gained sympathy along the lines that he has been sidelined in an event like this. As you all can remember, during the first COVID briefing back in March, the deputy president was absent.
Yeah.
And I remember some political groups saying that the deputy president has been sidelined and he has gone. So he has decided to keep away from anything concerning COVID, and he wants to show them that he was not part and parcel of any mess that comes with that, and also any gains that comes with that. But constitutionally, he's not supposed to miss it. We are paying him to work. And if he's not present, then that means he's like you right now, you are in work. If you don't appear tomorrow morning, your boss will sack you.
All right.
And it's that simple.
Okay, as simple as, of course, him coming out yesterday and goes wild without explaining the reason as to why he skipped this particular meeting. And one would look at it as though it's prison break, as captured on the front page of the Standard newspaper. They say Deputy President takes fire to his boss a day after skipping state function. Dares critics to bring it on. A story that has been captured on page 4 and 5. And a developing story for that particular matter is the same story that has been captured on the front page of the Daily Nation. Also defiant Ruto and the Deputy President gave a COVID-19 conference a wide berth despite State House invite. Was he rebelling or playing politics? Page 5 of the Daily Nation. We do not want to expand some more on that because we have other stories that we need to touch on. But yes, a developing story, and we'll be having candid discussions on the same as time goes by, just to deliberate and understand what has informed this. That utterance by Murathe saying that, yes, the DP could be charting his way out of Jubilee Party is a question of wait and see. And constitutionally, we also take a look at how much, of course, has been given as a leeway for the DP to exit the stage in the event that he deems that necessary. But away from it, And another story that has been captured on the front page of the People Daily, how Magoha team failed school's test and returned to sender. President rejected recommendations as they were too general to ensure learner safety. And universities, CS announces higher learning resumes from Monday, October the 5th, captured on page 4 of the People Daily, and also on these other newspapers too. And I would want to hear from you gentlemen. First of all, I mean, we've been treated to all this hullabaloo, but finally that declaration by the president that we should not let loose of our students to go back to school. What do you make of it, Anyona?
Actually, it's the best decision. With this, I'm with the president 100%, because we cannot be using our kids to experiment out there. I think even the best thing is that let us test with the economy. Let us open the economy slowly, so that even people can look for money. I mean, I've seen on social media people saying school fees ilikuliwa. It could be true. We might be thinking that it's a joke, but even the effects of COVID on the economy, I think the president on this, I give him a tick. Is in line, is okay. Because parents even need to look for money so that they can take care of their school fees come next year.
All right, Burhanuddin, what do you make of this? And on the front page of the Daily Nation, why Uhuru refused to open schools, just reacting to the same inadequate measures to protect learners from COVID-19, the possibility of another closure where things... I mean, if things were to go wrong, and a potential backlash from parents from a president's last-minute decision to keep primary and secondary schools shut. This even as teachers again went to school yesterday just to try and see whether indeed the measures put on board or whether there is need to work on some things, of course, within their respective schools to ensure that students get a chance to go back to school. So how soon will we be able to achieve this as a nation, even as the CS says that students from institutions of higher learning would again go back to school?
I support the decision by the president. As I have seen a certain video on social media. This video was showing students in China going back to school, and the amount of time and resources that they have put in place, we have not reached that level. And once we reach that level, then we can try to open schools in phases.
Just how much are the possibilities of us reaching that level, honestly?
Very low possibility. The possibilities are low, but with time and how we see things getting back to normal, or as they call it, the new normal, then we can try to open schools. Like right now, starting with the final year students at the universities, I think that's a step in the right direction, because when we see what happens with them, then we can decide to open secondary schools, then we go to primary schools, slowly by slowly. But this issue of trying to assume that we are out of the woods, and we are not out of the woods.
Yes,
speaking of
us not being out of the woods, we have varsities to open on Monday, yet no word on schools. And speaking of us not being, out of the woods, I think that's a story that has been captured. Should have been on what page? It should have been on the Daily Nation, I bet. And they say we should not celebrate just yet. Let me try and see whether we have that story. Yes. And here we are. Yes, careful, don't lower your guard just yet. A story that has been captured on the front page of the Daily Nation, just to remind us that it is not yet Uhuru, or no longer, we are not at the ease just yet. So we should not easen up on the restrictions that have been put on board. Ensure that you have your mask. Ensure that you, put a social distance, ensure that you always clean your hands 101% as expected, in what has been seen as defiance, amongst the Kenyans. So we leave that aside and we wait to see what will be deliberated on the same. Coming back to the people daily, patients in pain after doctors down tools. And the medics have decided that it's not going to be an easy route in Kenyatta National Hospital's horrible scenes witnessed yesterday. Some of them were trying to shift their patients, or some family members were trying to take their patients to different hospitals. Some of them crying, some of them calling upon the medics to at least have some level of humanity in trying to help them. I don't know what you make of this, Anyona. I mean, even as probably the government remains mum, or if they are saying anything at all, then it's something that does not resonate with the agreement that they had with their doctors.
I think the people here we shouldn't be blaming the doctors really per se. I think our leaders take us for granted so much, because when you hear about COVID-19 funds being stolen, billions and billions of money, so doctors are only asking for what is theirs, and it's so unfortunate that they are doing it in a manner that is costing the lives of Kenyans. They could be, those people who are dying could be their brothers, sisters, or even mothers. But to some extent, I would really not be fair to put aspersions or to castigate the doctors for what they are doing. I just want to put it across that our leaders are failing. They are not even addressing this. They are like silent. So it is something that even the president himself needs to intervene, because part of the reason why we elect a government is to protect its people by all means, if it's a pandemic, a war, or something else. So when they let our people die in this nature, and there's even another story that I saw you aired, Pangani, whereby a mother was delivering outside the gate.
Yeah.
It is so shameful. These are not things that should be happening in this country, Kenya. Yes.
All right, well, we dropped that one because of time, and we take a look at this one. And on Sunday, InfoTrack released a report on the performance of members of parliament. I don't know whether you were able to see that, Burhanuddin, but I mean, for the longest of time, performances on different leaders have been presented to the masses. I mean, this coming from the masses themselves and presented to them, so at least we can try and see whether we can get accountability. So the members of parliament have summoned InfoTrack over this particular rating, trying to question the credibility and trying to question the mode that they used to come up with the rankings that they presented, and of course in something that has been castigated by the members of parliament. I do not know what you make of this, and what do you feel about this particular reports that come from the polling or the pollsters in regards to the performance of different quarters or different people in different sectors?
InfoTrack has been trying since time immemorial to give us what is happening in the political scene.
Yeah.
At the same time, questions will be asked: who is financing InfoTrack, who has interest? And you see, as a member of parliament, I can decide to maneuver around with InfoTrack, knowing that they will release something at the end of the year. And this happens all the time, that leaders say InfoTrack is compromised, and we don't know who they serve. So my take is that we need to have systems in place to check the MPs' performances, and one of those is the audit reports. Yes, we have the Office of the Auditor General, who needs to audit how they use the CDF money and the impact they are making on the ground.
Okay. Well, of course, we await to see what will happen in regards to the same. There's still so much that we would have loved to cover, but time is not on our side. The first U.S. presidential debate fails to move investors. And of course, like I said, what has culminated was on the question of, race, the question of how the country has dealt with COVID-19. And of course, you can always get to check out and see just how much this presidential debate was influential towards, placing the two candidates at the top of the helm, or giving them the chances or denying them the chances of being the next president of the United States. Of course, this culminates to the countries or different countries in the global fraternity, hence the importance of that particular debate that very many people across the world have been following up on. The same on the African scene, Tunisia president makes comments supporting death sentence. And of course, who is Togo, the first female prime minister of Togo, also being captured right there, and a story expounded to more on the same. And like I said, time is not so much on our side because we have to cross over to the next segment, where we of course take a look at Martha's Huduma number and just how much Kenyans have faith on the same. Did you guys register as we get to wind up for the Huduma number?
Yeah, I haven't. I didn't register in the first round. I will never register for something called Huduma number. It is my right anyway.
All right. Well, that's an interesting one. I wish I had you on the panel, but all the same, it's okay.
I don't think anybody should be forced to register. That is not an identity card.
Okay. Well, interesting. No, Burhanuddin, did you?
Yes, I have registered because
you're still waiting for the actual.
Yes, okay. And when you come from a marginalized region, you don't have an option. When you get the opportunity, to register, you register.
Okay. That is also an interesting view. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Political analyst Burhanuddin Simbar and Frank Anyona Museti. I'll pick your sentiments and use them on the next conversation, and we get to ponder some more on the same. Honorable David Sankok will be joining me for the same. Joyam Divo and Joseph Simeha. So keep it right here. It's going to be an interesting conversation after this short break. Welcome to the broadcast. Time for that current affairs segment where we take a look at what is happening right here in the world of news. Today, our main focus is on the Huduma number and the debacle that comes along with it. I mean, the latest culminating from allies to the Deputy President William Ruto, who are against the second phase, saying that we should have civil disobedience on the same, and of course questioning just how credible the Huduma number process is, and equally arguing that this could be a way of trying to chart ways forward on rigging 2022 elections. Just how genuine are their allegations is what we'll be discussing this morning. And moving forward, we ask this question: do you have faith in the Huduma number process that we've been treated to as Kenyans? And the second phase, of course, looming, we set to see to it that we have the security number that can be equated to indeed that social security number of the United States. And joining me for this discussion, I'll break the rules and start with the guests who are on Skype. Joy Mdivo, who's the Executive Director, East Africa Center for Law and Justice, is joining me this morning via Skype. And also Joseph Simeha, who's a governance expert, of course, will be on Skype. And live in studio, we have Honorable Dr. David Ole Sankok, who's with us here. Good to have you, Mheshimiwa, this morning.
Good to have you.
All right, and of course we start with him, as the communication that came out to the newsrooms is that nominated Member of Parliament Ole Sankok has been de-whipped from National Cohesion Committee. So alongside my panel, I guess we'll ask this question: why? What culminated? What informed this? And we've been told that indeed it is a procedure that was, it took due procedure for you to get to that particular point. What really happened?
Linda, I was discharged from my membership of the National Cohesion and Equal Opportunity Committee. I've been there for the past 2 months, 14 days.
Only?
And actually that is a record set.
Okay.
I'm the shortest ever serving member of a parliamentary select committee.
Right.
In fact, that's a world record. And, we keep on setting records. There's no problem about it.
Yeah.
But my discharge was done in accordance to the law.
All right.
It was due process was followed according to our standing order 176, 1 and 176, 2. So the procedure was followed to the latter.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate my Jubilee Party and leadership for having trust in me for the past 2 months and 2 weeks, for having given me the opportunity to serve in such an important committee, in which my mission was very simple: equal opportunities for persons with disabilities who have been stigmatized and marginalized for a long time, equal opportunities for my community, the Maasai, and by extension the pastoralists who are been marginalized by the 4 consecutive regimes. You know of the Equalization Fund, trying to bring them on board and bring them at par with other, because Kenya have accepted that pastoralist regions, the 80% of the landmass occupied by pastoralists, have been marginalized for a long time. And it was okay and accepted, and it is the duty, because our standing order give the nominating party the sole mandate of discharging and placing members in different communities. But many people have taken it into a political dimension. People don't know that some of us started politics long time ago. I started politics while I was in the University of Nairobi as a SONU president. This is just a political hiccup.
Hold it right there, Mheshimiwa, before you tell us what really informed this, because then if you do not tell us, then we'll all conclude that must have been a political gimmick. But then I'll loop in Joy and Simeha and probably just ask them. Joy, Mheshimiwa speaks of this with so much comfort and says, well, I proudly, I am the shortest serving member of a committee. And honestly, I do not see how this is something really to be proud about. Looking at 2 months only, and you've been appointed on a very crucial committee, and then before you know it, you're out of it 2 months down the line. What would be your question? What would be your reaction to Mheshimiwa's reaction?
Mheshimiwa is entitled to his reaction, because we all must cope with what happens to us in life somehow. and that is how he has chosen to cope with it. But for the rest of us who are pundits and observers, we all saw the video on social media where the honorable member had gone with a group to visit the deputy president.
Yeah.
And right now, if you align yourself with the deputy president, you're on the wrong side of the powers that be. And therefore, the whipping was not a surprise. It was one of those things of, yes. So the whip that was cracked on his colleagues earlier on in the year is still there, and it's very much cracking. That's what I understood.
During the purge,
pardon?
During the purge or the whipping, of course, we also saw Honorable Sir Nkok aligning himself with the president 101%, probably in what many read as a way of trying to, salvage or save himself from the purge. What could have changed?
Time has a way of giving people perspective. At the time, it looked like there's this looming, purge. Everybody was being, and I thought you saw it even in the Senate. All the nominated senators quite aligned because there was the threat of disciplinary action, the threat of being removed from their positions. And so everybody who was not an elected member very quickly aligned to what the party position was. But time has passed a little bit and people have had a little bit more perspective, maybe more discussions and more assurances. Now, this is pure speculation. I cannot be cross-examined on this.
All right.
And it's a place where people have decided, you know what? I think I better just roll the dice. I thought you saw even on the floor of the House, one of the senators decrying and saying, you know what? Every time I walk these streets, I'm being reminded, you're nominated. I now feel less than. And I even wonder why we were nominated if all we were nominated for was to be used and abused, for lack of this is the paraphrase. Okay. So I think that the nominated members have all come to a place where they've decided, you know what, let the lot fall where it will, but you choose your bed and lie in it, because it's not just Honorable Nkok who has changed tax since that time. You've also seen Senator Omanga changing tax since that time. So I think time has passed, people have reassessed, and they have chosen to, walk their path. And the path comes with thorns and thistles and roses. So you take it all as it comes.
Right, Simeher.
Yeah, a little bit of a difficult question for me to respond to because I don't pay so much attention to this association called Jubilee. I mean, beyond knowing, what they've taken the country through since 2013.
Yeah.
And also just appreciating the fact that its leadership has acknowledged that there's a big problem that they alone cannot fix, that they need to come to the rest of the citizens so that together as a nation we look into this problem. But on the issue of Mheshimiwa there, first of all, I congratulate him for taking it. I think he's taken it very well, actually. I think better than the people who scream and cry and insult and sulk. I think he's taken it very well. That mandate belongs to the party. If they do not like, maybe they didn't like his performance over the last two months, 2 weeks, I think it's fair enough for them to replace him. But I absolutely agree with Joy that we can't help but interpret things in the context of the unfolding political situation in the country.
Yeah.
It's rather for all of us to see out here what's happening in the Jubilee Association, the Jubilee Party, with the differences on. So it was, and parties do that is the one how they use positions, and especially positions of privilege, to leverage on what they want done on the agenda of the leadership. So no surprises at all. If indeed, I don't have the facts, but if this is seen in the context of the contests within Jubilee.
All right. Well, and from the host's mouth, then we ask, if not politics, then what?
Joy, she's my good friend. We have met severally on such discussions.
Right.
But for sure, I've never changed my position.
Okay.
I've always said that I'm loyal to my party leader, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, who nominated me to parliament. I'm loyal to my party, Jubilee, and equally loyal to the deputy party leader.
All right.
So when I said that time that when the president, who happens to be our party leader, call us for a parliamentary group meeting in State House, I'll be the first one to be there. And even today, if he's someone us to State House for a parliamentary group meeting or for anything else as a party leader and a president, I will still be there because I'm still loyal to the party leader and the party leadership as a whole.
Is it a question of loyalty or a question of, there's nothing much to do after being nominated?
No.
Yeah.
But when we go there from a parliamentary group meeting or for a discussion, we are leaders in our own standings. Probably you are nominated, but also remember nomination is not that easy.
Right.
I represent 6.5 million Kenyans with disability. There is no other member of parliament who have such a large constituency. So I will go there and tell them what my people have told me, the ones that I represent.
Yeah.
We may differ in opinion. If we come to a conclusion, well and good. If we don't, then we will take a party position from the majority because that is democracy. And again, I think people misinterpret because I went off the cameras for quite some time after the purge in parliament.
Yeah.
There are people who have regrouped themselves and call themselves the system. I don't know where they come from and call themselves the deep state. You remember there was somebody who came even to my own home and started now threatening me. I am the owner of Nairobi. We are deep state. You must do this. You must abuse the deputy president. In fact, I asked him, nimtukane naibu wa rais aje? He just told me in Kiswahili, ita ye mwizi. And then again he told me you must go to Capitol Hill office for you to be sanitized. Sasa mimi nikajiuliza kwa roho yangu na nikauliza bibi yangu.
For the records, why don't we mention the name? Who is this person?
Kwani dhambi yangu siku hizi naoshwa na binadamu, sio damu ya Yesu Kristo.
Okay.
Unajua as a Christian, I have a faith to God. So nikawaambia ngoja kidogo. So because they were threatening my life, I decided let me take some sabbatical leave from the media.
All right.
Go and write a will, because now we are threat to your life. Let me write a will, and then I'll come out ready to pay the price.
All right.
The ultimate price for the sons and daughters of peasants to have a name in this country.
All right.
For persons with disabilities, whom I represent, to be treated with dignity and respect as demanded by Article 54 of our Constitution. And lastly, people should not worry. This is a political hiccup.
Yeah.
For me, I've been in politics ever since I was in the University of Nairobi. Right. I was a SONU president. I was that time jailed, tortured, and even suspended because of fighting against commercialization of education. Because I needed equal opportunities for those sons and daughters of peasants who don't have money to purchase degree in the parallel degree program. So
we hope the district will not in any way alter your...
No. I still have a stand. My party leader, I respect him. I am loyal to him. If you call me, we will discuss. We will come into a conclusion. I equally respect the deputy party leader, who is William Samoei Ruto, and I cannot abuse him simply because I've been told to accuse him as a thief. Because my Bible teaches me never to accuse somebody falsely.
Okay.
That is in the Bible.
Mheshimiwa, let's leave it at that. And of course, the developing story will be following up on the same in the event that it comes to us. But we cross over to the Huduma number. And government is in the process of completing the adjudication of the first phase of the Huduma number. Even as they do this, they have also promised that there are likelihoods of us proceeding to a second phase of the Huduma, that is for the ones who had not registered initially. And we ask today, Joy Madivo, do you have so much confidence in the process of the Huduma number? Did you proceed to register yourself?
Yes. My family and I were registered in the first round of the Huduma number.
Yeah.
As many other Kenyans, we have faith in the government that what they said they were going to do is what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Moving onwards, I have a few questions, especially around the data protection area, because initially we had been given assurances of how this was meant for domestic consumption and all these other things. Now, when I saw the detailed statement by some sections of the Jubilee legislators, I felt that there was need for the government to come out with a more robust response, because questions of data are very sensitive. We have a very, it's a fairly new Data Protection Act that also puts in place several things. For example, it talks about a data commissioner. I don't think we have a data commissioner yet. The checks and balances are about the standard of technology that people should use, the kind of servers where they should be backed up, the sort of technology you need to employ when you have different category of data. So there's that data that's not very sensitive. There's that which is very sensitive, and that's the category where the Huduma number information is. The one that goes into you, your spouse, your children, where you live, date of birth. That's considered to be highly classified and sensitive information. Now, there's even in the Act, there's the talk about how our data cannot be exported or stored in places other than in Kenya, and if it's leaving the country, it has to be with the controls by the data commissioner. Now, these things are not in place. So I'm not too sure where the source of the information that the Jubilee members came from, but in this particular instance, because the data, the Huduma number is talking about the data of all Kenyans, and anybody who's a little bit with the steps of the time knows, right now the most expensive thing on earth is not oil. The most expensive thing on earth now is data. It is big business. Ask Elon Musk, he'll tell you it's big business. Zuckerberg is making his money because of mining our data daily. So we have to come to a place where the government can not just say, no, it's okay, it's fine, it's safe, nobody's being forced to go ahead, register for the second one. We want a more robust response. And the reason for that is simple. People need to have confidence in the process. If they don't, then all these calls of anarchy and boycott will take traction simply because there's question marks that cloud the process. You've seen Kenyans making fun even during the pandemic. Oh, you registered for Huduma numbers, do you still have your jobs? The skepticism has already set in. So I would expect the government to take a more proactive stance, give us back figures, debunk what is debunkable, what's not debunkable, let it be explained adequately, because ultimately our data in the wrong hands could prove catastrophic for this country. I mean, it's something we cannot play around with. So
all right. Okay, let's loop in Simeha and ask this question. Do you suppose then that the government has not given enough information to, warrant us that confidence? I mean, and does this then open loopholes to some of these allegations that are cropping up?
Linda, and you may have heard me say perhaps on one of the shows, who says that it's a patriotic duty not to just automatically trust your government. You must ask questions, you must question, you must verify before you trust what your government is telling you. I'm one of the people, myself and my family as well, who never registered for the Huduma number that first round. In fact, for your information, I'm one of the people who went to court. By then, I was Executive Director of Information, together with the National Commission on Human Rights, Kenya Human Rights Commission, Nubian Rights, and so on, to say exactly some of the things that Joy is raising. And I'm glad people like Joy are coming to that reality. That we say it's all right to manage citizen data, but we must have a framework for data security and protection. And secondly, that as a government, you don't rush and threaten people. You explain to people, you inform people, you educate people, because this number is for them. This would be a personal information management system, not for the government of Kenya, but for the people of Kenya. Yes, of course, paid by the government of Kenya, but for the people of Kenya. But then when they started, they came with threats. They came with the vagueness in terms of data security and management. And they came with the hostility when we questioned. So much we had to take them to court. So these are legitimate concerns, except that for some of the Jubilee people, MPs and their deputy party leader, I think that they are being duplicitous. Because when we do these things, we so hostile, and so on and so forth. But nevertheless, whether they're being duplicitous or honest, I am glad that they come to this realization that we do need to ask questions, and it is patriotic. It's patriotic duty to ask questions of our government before we accept anything that our government is telling us.
Okay, well, speaking of which, this morning I had a panelist, and this was their argument. I asked them whether they had registered for the Huduma number. One of them said he did not, and he will not. Another one said, I come from a marginalized community, so I mean, I was left with no choice but to proceed and do that. And this is a Somali person who was saying this. And then my question then would be, we're talking about the first phase that they're working on. We're headed to the second phase. The second phase is likely to loop in the people who, boycotted this, process in the first place. So what is the guarantee that they are going to go in and do this? Is it going to be forced down their throats? And moving on, as a member of parliament, do you suppose then that there is need for us to go for a Huduma number phase 2?
First of all, Linda, I see your spelling there is Huduma number.
Yes.
It is actually Huduma number.
Huduma, yes.
It does not Hudumus anybody. Because Linda, I think you should correct that one.
No, we are not going to correct that because that's the question. Is it Huduma or is it Hujma?
But you know, you are not asking a question. You have already made a
conclusion. We put a question mark there. We put a question. No. Huduma number? There is a question mark. Is it a Huduma
Linda,
number or
you can remember very well.
Yes.
We went out as Jubilee and campaigned on a manifesto that indicated that Jubilee will be a digital government and digitalization of all our information, according to me, so that for easier service delivery is a correct move towards achieving a manifesto of a digital government.
Right.
So first of all, I support that. But you know, the question and pertinent questions that are Kenyans asking, and especially the representative of the people, they are asking these questions directly to the registrar of persons, where the offices where Huduma number was actually supposed to be in charge. How much was used? Is there a value for money? Is there any hidden agenda, like using our information to rig the election? I don't think this is too much to ask from citizens whose information have been collected, and whose taxes have been used to collect such information. I think it is the registrar of persons, the office responsible, to come with a robust and satisfactory answer to the questions being asked by Kenyans. But of course, there are cartels who have joined in. There are even members of parliament who have joined in, who have come and say, no, you should not be asking these questions. You are inciting people. You know, what is the incitement? When I tell you, how have you used my money, my taxes? As a person representative, persons with disabilities are paying taxes. I want to know how was that taxes used. I want to know persons with disability whose information have already been collected. Where is this information?
Shouldn't we be a little bit patient? Are we asking for this a little bit?
No. Too early what? We are told, collect this card, go with this slip, and then you'll come and collect the information.
They give timelines which they did not.
They give their timelines which they did not achieve. So we are actually more than patient. In fact, as Kenyans, we were more than patient. And I really don't expect any answer among the questions being asked. How much? Is there value for money? Is there any hidden agenda of this Huduma number, this information that will be used probably to rig election, or probably for other use, or probably to send it outside so that it can be a digital warfare from other countries? You know, those are the questions we're asking. We expect the registrar of persons and offices responsible to be the ones to answer. Any other Dick and Tom and Harry, shut up.
All right. Okay. Huduma number versus the ID number, and all these discrepancies that arise from the same. Joy, coming to you. Do you suppose in any way we're going to get answers? If we are going to, then well and good. If we're not going to get answers, there are likelihoods that, like any other processes that we've seen in the country, sometimes this just proceeds and it is implemented, and well, the Kenyans are left wondering. But then again, all the same, they just have to abide. Like one of the people has said, I come from a marginalized region, so well, I had nothing to do. I had to do that. If you don't, then the trouble is coming your way. So will Huduma number in any way guarantee Huduma Bora as expected to?
The justification for the Huduma 1, remember, we were being told there was a lot of documents that had been issued erroneously, ID number, IDs, passports, and other things. So it was trying to mop up the legitimate Kenyan information so that those other documents that were deemed to be not properly given out could be removed from our system. Then there was also the issue of, okay, then why was it not combined with the census? And that question to date, I don't think has been satisfactorily addressed, but they were still done as two separate activities. Now, coming to the second round of Huduma number, remember the inquiry into Huduma 1, PS Kibicho was very categorical and said nobody was forced to register for Huduma 1 and nobody will be forced to register for Huduma 2. So I think they probably would find that the uptake for Huduma 2 may not be as enthusiastic as the uptake for Huduma 1, simply because people want to know where are you taking our information. Many of the people who did not register for Huduma 1 was not because they lacked the opportunity, was because, like Simeha, they took a principled position to not register. Like even in my circles, the people who did not register for Huduma number chose not to register for Huduma number. If that was your position, then little has changed to now. So they will get some uptake, but not a very good uptake. Now, the way to debunk that is to have a conversation with the people, which is something that is long overdue. Tell people what they need to know. Because Kenyans are learned. So you can't tell us that these are very complex systems that are being held. I mean, we were treated to this circus during the election, and you remember the story of Vifaranga via computer. So this is a situation where there must be a conversation between the powers that be, the ones who want to register the people, and the people who are being registered. Because if what they're saying they're going to do with the information is correct, it is long overdue, because it is true. Our passports, our IDs, and other documents have been bastardized. So it is true, we need to redeem that. And if that is the case, then how are we moving forward with that redemption? But if it is still just register, it's one more number that you're going to have in your wallet, it's one other thing. There's the controversy about MasterCard issuing the same, it's going to be how you pay your taxes, and other things that are basically still opaque. If they still have those questions, then Kenyans may not be as cooperative this time round. So it's something to consider before we spend all that money for the process to flow.
All right, coming to you, Simeha, you will tell us how far you went with the court battle. And while we all acknowledge that in comparison to other countries that have successfully, implemented the security number system and has worked well for them, it's true that before we get to adopt this, it's important that questions are answered. So looking at the issues that are being raised, 7 billion shillings as purported by the DP allies, is that, of course, is going to be channeled to Maba High-Tech Company, more or less like a white company that is going to be channeled towards addressing the next phase of Huduma number. And also, crucial utterances coming from the former, member of the IEBC, Roslyn Akombe, commissioner of the IEBC, who says James Buyekani, who is the CEO, at center of the electoral irregularities, was at the center of electoral irregularities, that is in 2017, and now is the same boss who is channeled towards addressing this Huduma number phase 2. So he was the ICT boss in 2017, is now the current CEO on matters Huduma number, and she puts a question mark on the processes, in comparison to what happened to, back then, the Otimofo, and what it is that Joy has spoken about. What do you make of this? And are these allegations that we can just lazily overlook?
I think it's important that, let me begin with the question of what Roslyn Akombe is raising. It's important that she's raising, but it would have been much better if she raised it then, because the question I've asked myself is, when did she discover this?
Yeah.
She was a commissioner at the IEBC. She seems, from what she's saying now, she seems to have known then what was happening, but she did not think she has a patriotic duty, a national duty, actually a sacred duty, to bring this out so that she can save Kenya from what we went through. Because if she had brought it up at that time, even patriotism doesn't come easy, it would have saved this country a lot if she brought up what these allegations she's coming up with, which I hope are factual, true, and honest. And I'm glad that she's coming up with them now rather than not come up with them at all. But I will still ask that question, why she kept quiet at that time when she was in a position of credibility to raise these issues to save Kenya, but she chose to keep quiet. That having been said, I think it's important that the issues she's raising be looked into. Because if it is true that this is the person, one of the persons who are responsible for the debacle of 2017 elections, the stealing and so on of 2017 elections, and then you put such a person at the center of our personal data, the personal data of Kenyans, I think we would be looking for disaster. And I think it then highlights, puts a spotlight on the questions we have raised. They have raised them, I have raised them, of security of our data. There is so much people can do with this. They can commercialize it, they can use it for political mischief, they can use it to hold the country, the entire country at ransom, they can use it to target individuals, they can use it to commit all manner of crimes. So I think it would be, if our government were listening, I think it's time to stop, regardless of who is raising these questions now. But just because questions have been raised, and they are very serious questions, I think this government should stop in its tracks and come and provide information, sufficient information, facilitate a public education, information, and participation process.
All right.
The Constitutional Court made a ruling that the government has a right to go ahead in coming up with the citizen data management system, but it gave preconditions. That the concerns that were being raised, that we were raising, of being inclusive, because basically it was exclusivist, excluding, for example, the Nubian community that have left out in terms of registration of IDs, because you had to use a document you already have. So if you're going to use a document that you already have, and you have a majority of a community that has been left out of the previous registrations, it means you will leave them out.
Okay.
Secondly, they were asked to address issues of data security and protection that we have raised. I do not know if they've done that. I haven't seen any information to persuade me they've done that. And thirdly, and perhaps most important, please, can this government stop in its tracks and provide information to citizens, not because it was compelled by a court of law, but because, as I think the two of us are saying, citizens are asking questions. It doesn't matter if it's a member of Kieleweke, Tangatanga, ODM, it doesn't matter whoever you are. It doesn't matter whether you agree with Ruto or Kenyatta or Raila. As long as you are a citizen of the Republic of Kenya, you are asking your government questions open. Your government has a duty to do to all of us to answer this question.
All right. Well, interestingly, some of the members of parliament that we witnessed today questioning this were part and parcel of the Jubilee Party then when it was supporting this. And, they agreed with the president that it was necessary for us to have this national security number that is going to protect a majority of us and allow us that chance to, access services, in the smoothest and, simple way. But then the question today is the Huduma number politics justifiable based on how it is being played, based on the fact that we're looking and we're headed at 2022 or to 2022, and the intolerance that we witness in the country today in matters politics?
Linda, it is you people of the Fourth Estate who keep on saying those are lied to the deputy president, those are lied to the president.
But is it not evidence?
We are still in Jubilee.
Okay.
When we break up Jubilee and form different political parties, you can now draw the lines. But for the time being, for the time being, we are still in Jubilee. Tangatanga, Kieleweke, hiyo ni yenyu watu wa Fourth Estate. But I have a few questions.
Yes.
A few statements that I would like to make, Linda.
Okay.
I was watching you when you had an interview with those other panelists, gentlemen, especially from Northern Kenya. The fellow said, I had no choice. I had to register. Whatever the government will tell me, I have to do. Because it is just shows how they have been marginalized, how the governments have been treating people from Northern Kenya as second-grade citizens, how they are not even considered. So for them, anything the government say is a yes, a yes, a yes, a yes, because there are consequences to it. And that is why I still hope that whoever will replace me in the Committee of National Cohesion and Equal Opportunities will be bold enough to fight for equal opportunities of those people from Northern Kenya, of the pastoralists, and for persons with disabilities. Secondly, thieves don't steal money from treasury at gunpoint.
Okay.
No. They develop some reasons. We can say Ujuma proposals to siphon money from the taxes of Kenyans in a cunningly manner. So this may be another way that when we said, why don't we have Huduma number and the census being tied together? Then they will not siphon money away. They will not have a reason. They will not have a Ujuma proposal to get money away.
From a legislative point of view,
yes.
Why then are we not addressing these issues before they get out of hand?
As a member of parliament,
yes,
I am in an arm of government.
Yes.
That is sole mandate is to legislate, to oversight, to represent. So mine, I legislated.
Okay.
According to the manifesto of Jubilee, we wanted a digital government. Now they went up, there are cartels who went down and now developed those Hujuma proposals.
Right.
You hear the issue of the BBI, we all accepted, we all built consensus, but because they did not have enough money, they had to go back and recook it again. Yes, they say this is the document that was well conversed. It have the views of all Kenyans.
Okay.
So when then we agreed, there was a consensus, there was nobody opposing it. Why did they take back to the people? To ask what? That they did not ask in the first place. Because they have to have our Juma proposal to save on money. We are now being told there must be a referendum. A must. Kenyans don't have a choice. It is a must. Why? Because there must be a way of saving money.
Right.
So what I'm just saying is that we are not playing politics. We, as the representative of the people who oversight the executive arm of government, we are simply asking the question that our members and our constituents are asking: where is our money that was used for Huduma number? Where is our information? Where have you put our information?
Yeah.
We are simply asking, what is the intention of this information? Because if it is for service delivery, where are the services? Huduma number, Huduma Bora. Where is the Huduma Bora? Have we accessed our services in a more efficient manner since the Huduma number was taken? Those are the questions we're asking.
Well,
we demand answers.
PS Kibicho says that yes, they are in the process, and before the year goes
Which process?
down, we should
Up
be
to
able
when?
to get
Up
all
to
these
when?
numbers and everything. But Joy,
Timeline.
coming to you honestly, and listening to members of parliament speaking about this, and in what one would consider as an intolerant way of approach, or an intolerant approach. And the question is, they are crying foul, alongside the common mwananchi. And then we ask, who is this person who is supposed to speak on behalf of us? Who is this person who is supposed to get answers on behalf of us? If they're asking the same questions, what is the push and drive that they are putting towards ensuring that indeed these questions are answered?
There's two things happening here, Linda.
Yeah.
There's the questioning of what is happening with the information of Huduma number, but there's the angle that was introduced that this was supposed to be used to rig the elections in 2022.
Yeah.
Now, when you that realm, it becomes politics.
And welcome back to the broadcast. Apologies for that particular hitch. We still have Joy Mdivo, Joseph Simeher, and Dr. David Olesankok on board. Before we come to Joy, as we fix that, yes.
Please.
All right. And
I hope against all hopes that is not the system and the deep state that have just interfered. You know, sometimes you never know these things.
We all hope for that.
Yeah, because the money have been poured. You know, some people can just be hurt by what we are saying.
I do not want to subscribe to
but
that.
how does it disappear all of a sudden?
But yes,
the
that is the
system
question we ask. How all of a sudden, Joy, we come back to you. Yeah.
Now, I was saying that when people start talking about it is going to be used to rig elections, that becomes politics.
Right.
And now when it is politics, there's no rhyme or reason. It is used for expediency, and you can say what you need to say in the heat of the moment. However, the questions that are being raised are critical to be raised on the floor of the House, because the National Assembly and the Senate are the ones seized with the oversight role over the executive.
Yeah.
And therefore, I like what I saw later. Well, forget about the first time. The second time when they came out with a detailed statement, because it had particular things that you could say, okay, this needs to be addressed, this needs to be addressed. And I hope that they follow it through on the floor of the House, because that is where they can ask questions, committee can be called, people can be summoned, direct questions can be asked, documents can be demanded for, and we can move forward. Then there's the question that I also alluded to earlier, the full enforcement of the Data Protection Act. We are in a place where we have an act that's in infancy. We haven't really tried it out for size. It has been tried in smarts and busts. Maybe this is the time to also just enforce it to the full extent, starting with government, putting a data commissioner, empower them to also oversight what is going on with the data in government's control. Because we have to be realistic. Where we are as, let's say, people right now around the world, data is big business. And if we are not careful, I think it is Simeha who alluded to the fact that people can actually ground us using our data. I don't know if you've ever been in the country where there's a complete M-Pesa outage.
Yeah.
This is just an example. When M-Pesa is not working across the country,
You're frustrated.
it's almost chaos. People are in a place of almost near panic because this one aspect of technology is not working. Can you imagine now if all of us are roped in on one system and something happens and the entire system does not work? You cannot access healthcare, you cannot access any services, then it becomes chaotic. So it has grave implications. And I would that no politics is played with this, but that those who are responsible for oversight, as well as those who are the duty bearers, will actually put all the differences aside and work together to ensure that we do this right. Because if we get this wrong, it has got grave implications, not just moving forward, but also downgrading the value of our documents. You don't want to get to a place where a Kenyan passport or a Kenyan ID is not good ID because it's been replicated over and over and over again. So you're told, no, that is not unsafe. Or we find countries that we could travel without visas. Now we need visas because of the rampant fraud or the rampant reproduction of our documents. So we need a very positive response and better oversight. So I hope even those ones who are making delegations out here will go back on the floor of the House and not just make the same queries, but cause a process of inquiry to start.
All right, Simeha, revolution, they say, has no timelines. Others go to an extent of saying has no criteria. And in a scenario where we are seeking answers and we are not seeing them forthcoming, would it then be wise to say that it's justifiable for us to get the Huduma number politics, if at all it's going to guarantee us answers?
I missed part of what you said, but I guess you're talking about the Huduma number politics and what it contains.
Yeah. And whether it is necessary for us to have that in the event that it's the only way that we're going to get answers.
Well, I think what is important is for these questions, for us to continue to ask questions until we get answers. I do not think, and I said again, it's my position that it's patriotic duty not to trust government, to ask questions, to verify before we proceed. And let me just quickly add, when anyone who is interested in public affairs, anyone who is in public office, we need to be consistent when we are questioning what happens in government. It's important for us to question this issue of Huduma number, any mischief, for us to call them out, just as it is important, and it should have been important for us to ask, where is the money that you spend on the so-called laptops for schools that Jubilee promised our kids? Where is the money for stadia? Where is the money for dams? Where is the money for humongous allowances that some senior public and state officers are rumored to earn? We need to question these things consistently so that citizens can have confidence that when we question something, we are doing it in good faith. But when you question selectively, like some of our MPs do, then citizens, don't have a reason to believe you. They will only read politics in what you are saying, though it may be a very serious thing, but because of your inconsistency, that today you support, because of political convenience, tomorrow you question, then they will lose out from something good you may be raising, but because of your character, they may lose out. And then just a quick one on something that Mheshimiwa there mentioned. It's unfair to misinform the public about this BBI thing. Yes, I agree that, and we all saw that many leaders, including William Ruto, supported when the report was launched. It is not true that another report was done or it's going to be hidden. What is in public domain is that they set up a steering committee to come up with an implementation framework to implement that very report that they supported. But when you do that kind of work, it's important to take it through public participation so that you don't lock yourselves up in a room and come up with a framework without telling the public, this is what you seemed to say. Was it captured accurately by the task force? And if the public thinks that some areas were not captured accurately, they have a right to validate or invalidate. And that is what has happened in BBI. That propaganda, again, fortunately, when you use propaganda, when you are on a public platform, then to speak to citizens in a consistent manner, because these platforms are important for us to educate and inform citizens so that they can question their government with the right kind of information.
Yes, without authentication of the information that is disseminated to the people, then that is considered as propaganda. That is considered as, politics. So with these kind of allegations that we get from, what you have called members of the Jubilee Party, some of them who are not for the idea of us proceeding to the next phase, I mean, they do not present us with tangible, or they do not authenticate their allegations. So in this case then, whom should we follow?
First of all, I like the argument from my friend Joseph. And you talked about the BBI. For his information, as a representative of persons with disability, I gave my presentation after the BBI one was launched. And as a pastoralist, a leader of the pastoralists, we give our presentation after. And even Parliament gave their presentation after, not before. So we never gave before, so we are not going to validate anything. We are going to give raw presentation as persons with disability because I was there, as a pastoralist parliamentary group because I was there, and as a parliament because my speaker, Honorable Justin Muturi, was there, and he represented all of us in parliament, and it was a raw presentation after the BBI one was launched. Now coming to your question, is this one is not politics, and it's not a matter of whether the Jubilee members of Parliament gave information, gave some evidence. That is not our duty. Our duty as Parliament is to allocate funds to any government projects that was in the manifesto of the ruling party. Once we allocate funds, we also engage with the executive to give us timelines. When they have given timelines of implementation of such a project like that one of Huduma number, then we wait. Weeks have passed, months have passed, over and above their timeline. Then all of a sudden they come up again with Huduma number 2, phase 2. Then we have to ask, where was phase 1? Where was the timeline that we gave you? Where was the money that we gave you that is taxpayer money? and we gave you on behalf of Kenyan taxes.
Let's be clear on this, that Huduma number 2 has got nothing to do with people re-registering.
Yes,
it has everything to do with people who did not register to proceed and register. And honestly, if these questions are to be asked, should they be asked in modes of allegations like, you know, this is going to be used to rig the 2022 elections?
You know, when the number and the timeline are over and above, the time you gave, we had patiently waited, and then we are coming up with another phase. Why? And we are just asking, why don't you complete? And you know, it is us who represent the people, and those are the questions that are there. And if the people are asking these questions, our constituents don't have the platform that we have. If they say, oh, maybe this Huduma number will be used to rig an election, it is us who will come and ask on their behalf. We are just people servants. We ask on that because we have the platform given by the Constitution and given by the people by delegating their sovereignty, which is in Article 1 of our Constitution, to us. And when they delegate their sovereignty to us, then we act on their behalf. We have just acted on their behalf. We have just asked pertinent questions. And I think we, in all honesty, we really deserve just to be answered. And we deserve to be answered by the relevant office, not by, you know, sometimes we take a political dimension when answers are coming from the members of parliament who are supposed to oversight the executive. So they are the ones now giving answers on behalf of the executive. Or have they joined the executive? If they have joined the executive, but I'm sure they have not joined the executive because there is a clear demarcation of duties by our constitution. Probably they have joined the executive in eating, but not in their mandate. Their mandate is to ask such questions.
Executive says that this is in the best interest of the common mwananchi. So when you see some of these members of parliament calling upon Kenyans to proceed and pull that move of civil disobedience towards the phase 2 process, what do you make of it? Yes, let's hear what Joy has to say over the same. Is it really called for?
Like I said earlier, there are questions that have been raised that need to be addressed. And the people who did not register the first time, many of them did not register on principle, not for lack of opportunity. And so for those who did not register on principle, that allegation is still not enough. There are questions that they need answered. But with the call of a boycott for people who are supposed to be in government, part of the ruling party, is mischievous. And that's why I said when it goes to, this is used to rig elections, then now that is politics. Now, you know, it's no, we're no longer in the realm of, forgive this word, we're no longer in the realm of common sense. Now we're in the realm of political allegations and expediency, which sometimes has got things that are said that are not easily substantiated. But be that as it may, because the first time round there are very many conscientious objectors to registering for Huduma number, if as a country we want to move forward together, it is necessary to allay the fears of those who are conscientiously objecting to registering for Huduma number. And like my brother Simeka has said, it's not that you're trying to sabotage the government. No, you just want to be sure that your information is being used and being stored and being managed correctly. Now, if you look at the Data Protection Act, one of the primary responsibilities and one of the principles on which it is premised is that any data that is collected must be done so with the consent of the subject. That means if you're talking to me, asking me for my data, whether electronically or in person, the one who's collecting the data has to make sure that I'm giving the data consensually and unequivocally, so that I cannot come tomorrow and say, by the way, you forced me to do this. And that's why I think PS Kibicho was at pains to insist that even Huduma 1 was not done on threat of whatever, but it was consensual. Now, Huduma 2 now has to come out even more so on that particular panel. So let's not call for a boycott, because a boycott is not necessary. If this is going to mop up all the legitimate information and lock out the illegitimate information, if it's going to streamline our service delivery, then it is a good thing for the country. But let us do it with people knowing exactly where is my data going, who is holding it, who has access to what level of information, which are the organizations, how is it going to improve. So, like for example, as a Kenyan, I get very irritated when I go to one government institution, it has no information about me, that is held by another government institution that has no information held about me by another government. So if it's going to mop all that for me and make it everything streamlined, everything in one database, such that I don't have to every year when I go for good conduct take my fingerprints again. If it's going to make those processes more efficient, it's a good thing. But the questions that are being asked are legitimate, and like I said, for those who are conscientially objected to the process, it doesn't matter if you bring Huduma 6, they will still not register if the questions they're asking are not answered. And because it's a consensual exercise, then it means the government will have a very dark hole where they have to plug information from other sources. So it's in everybody's interest that we move together on this one.
All right. Well, in most cases, we find authenticity of allegations way later when the damage has already been done. At this early stage, when we're having these allegations from, certain quarters of politicians or of, politics, then the question would be, what can we do to ensure that we do not land ourselves in trouble, after the whistle has been blown and we just decided to overlook the same? We do not want to be treated to so much of intolerance, especially at a time when we are, at that level of elections. Simeha, as we wind up.
Yes, thank you very much, Linda. I think any allegations raised on a public process or a public officer, not just any allegations, but I should say any serious allegations raised on a public process or a public office or a public officer are worth investigating, and the government needs to take up that as its duty to help shed light, put light where there's darkness. For example, the allegations being raised by Dr. Akombe on the person who is apparently managing at the helm of Huduma number, and the allegations, if you put that together with the allegations being raised by some of those Jubilee MPs about rigging of elections, I would put that in the basket of serious allegations. I would therefore say that these are not things that the government should keep quiet about. Because it keeps quiet about these kind of things or respond. There are many people who have had these things, and because of our history with elections, they will approach elections with doubt, anxiety, and mistrust. And if anything happens that is completely unrelated, that shakes their trust and confidence, God forbid, what the state they may get into. So this is important that, by the way, the more people ask these serious questions of public processes and public offices, the merrier. This gentleman that Akombe is raising issues about is a public officer. Akombe is not raising issues about his private life. So this needs to come out. We need to know, what was his tenure at IEBC? What did he do? What was he responsible for? Akombe needs to be given an opportunity, for example, to come back, or even wherever she is, to shed light on what she's saying. Government should not be quiet on these allegations. These MPs who are raising about possible rigging of elections, maybe they know something we don't know. They need to be given a public opportunity to explain what they are saying, to provide evidence if possible, so that we may prevent anything in the direction in which these cries are pointing. It will be for the good of all of us as Kenyans.
All right, thank you so much, Joseph Simeha, governance expert, and Joy Mdivu, Executive Director, East Africa Center for Law and Justice. And finally, Honorable Dr. David Ole Sankok, a nominated Member of Parliament, for the great insights. Not to go without asking this question. The Hustler Nation momentum is grown so.
It's really grown, but before even we go there, Linda, I wish you could have played a clip of one Oburu Odinga.
Yes.
Where he said, we have been winning election throughout, but we never had the system.
Okay.
Now we have the system.
All right.
Yes?
Yes.
So, what was the system? And that is why we are asking, is it the Huduma number? Or, when you are left, that they have this, because for us, do you know what is the system? Do you know what is deep state? We don't know.
Yes.
But maybe you can shed light.
All right.
Finally,
that is a conversation we'll have some more.
Hustler Nation.
Yes.
Is really gaining momentum. And we are gaining momentum because some of us have been hustlers
during the times that you were in school, hustlers up until today when you're in government, hustlers until when?
Linda, You know, people don't understand.
Okay.
A hustler is somebody who have fought and who have struggled his way up. And when you are struggling to your way up,
you do not cease to be a hustler.
It does not mean that you are already up, or you are in the middle, or you are beginning.
Okay.
It only means that you are struggling your way up. Some of us are already in the middle. Some of us are in the apex. Some of us are beginning, and we are still hustlers.
These dynasties also struggle their way up.
And let me tell you, some of us are really not selfish, because already I have a name. I'm a member of parliament, so my son will not be a hustler.
Yes.
He will be a son of a dynasty.
And would you like it when
but
they
I want my son to have an equal opportunity as the son of my household.
Okay.
Because I'm not selfish. I don't want my son to use my name to gain opportunities or to get government favors. We want every Kenyan to be treated equally. I want the son and daughter of peasants to have equal opportunity as the sons and daughters of former members of parliament, former presidents, former whatever. We need to change the conversation. The conversation will be about Kenyans in general. The conversation will not be about the rulers. The conversation will not be about who was the father of who. You know, my father never had a name. I had to build a name for myself. My son must build a name for himself. The son of my maid or my household have to build a name on himself, on equal platform with my son. That is what.
So the wheelbarrows that we are seeing today are going to guarantee the hustler down there on ground, the genuine hustler. The wheelbarrows in Karen and all.
You know, when you talk about, you know, Linda, you are lucky to have a salary.
All right.
Me, I started, and I told you earlier in another conversation that I started hustling by sharpening knives. Using that sharpener that costed me 1,500.
Okay.
Ile ya kuzungusha na mguu moja. Unfortunately, Kenyans are still kuzungusha na mguu moja na wajui yangu ilikuwa imevunjika, ndio tuka innovate yenye inafanya na mguu moja. So what I'm telling you, a wheelbarrow is even 3,000. That was 1,500.
Yeah.
Somebody will get that one and will move forward. Okay. I started a clinic under a tree. Somebody is being given machine ya kuosha magari. Yes? That guy will be a billionaire later, but he's a hustler. We want to empower everybody, and you know it is in the Bible that blessed is the hand that give. But you know some people want to amend even the Bible. Wanataka kusema donation uzitoe. Sisi watu walemavu, shule ya watu walemavu ni mashule mingi, special schools ni ya kanisa, na hiyo kanisa sio pesa ya pastor.
Someone has just sent a message and says this, you know, the DP was never given Mikokoteni and this machine for blow dries with the former president, that is President Moi, may his soul rest in eternal peace. Yeye alipewa mashamba na kadhalika, vitu kubwa kubwa. Why don't you give same opportunities?
Skiza, the DP kama alipatiwa hizo, alipatiwa baada ya kuwa member of parliament.
Okay.
But I'm telling you, kuna wakati alipatiwa tuka space karibu na barabara ya kuuza kuku. That is where he started. Sasa you are lucky ukipatiwa wheelbarrow. You are lucky ukipatiwa pikipiki. Wewe unapatiwa tu ka space na unakuja na kuku moja ama kuku mbili. Which one is more costly? You know, some people just change the conversation kulingana na what will massage their ego.
All right, lucky or not, genuine or not, is a question of wait and see. Once again, the guest of the day, Asante Sana, for the great insights. Let's cross over to a different segment altogether after this break.